The main thing to keep in mind is that when you write these on the quiz or test, it's actually in between the quiz and the test. It's worth 75 instead of 50 or 100. Make sure you write it as ordered pairs. So let's go ahead. First of all, we know that y is the same as f of x, so I'm going to rewrite that. So let's start off by finding the x-intercept. So if I'm trying to find the x-intercept, that means that y is equal to 0. So let's put our 0 right here. And solve it for x. So I'm going to start by subtracting 4 from both sides. So that would be negative 4 equals negative square root of x plus 25. And then there's a negative in front of the square root. Is that being added, subtracted? How do I get rid of the negative? It's an invisible negative 1 right here. Divide both sides because it's multiplication. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 1, which will give me a positive 4 equals a positive square root of x plus 25. The opposite of a square root is squaring both sides. So that would be 16 equals x plus 25. And then my last step would be to subtract. So take 16 minus 25. So I'm going to write it over here. My x-intercept, I only have one, is at negative 9, 0. All right, let's find our y-intercept. So in order to find, so this is my x-intercept. In order to find our y-intercept, that's where x is equal to 0. So going back to that equation, I have y equals negative square root of, and then that's a 0, plus 25 plus 4. All right, take a minute and try to simplify that down. So you should get y equals negative 1. Anybody else get y equals negative 1? So we know 0 plus 25 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. Remember, that's negative. Add the 4, you get negative 1. So this is how you should write your answers, as ordered pairs. And that would be your x and your y intercept. Yes.
Why didn't you substitute the x, like the -9, to the other equation?
Because, so we got to go back to the definition. If you're trying to find a y-intercept, you substitute a 0 in for x. And if you're trying to find an x-intercept, we substitute the 0 in for y. Because we're looking at, an intercept is where it crosses through the axis. And it crosses through the axis when the other variable is 0. Good questions. Any other question? All right, let's go ahead and copy down question 2. I'm going to give you a few minutes to try to work this one out by yourself. It's just like the last one. Because the square root, if you remember order of operations, a square root is an exponent of 1/2. So we do our exponent before we multiply. Well, I'm noticing a lot of people had x equals -33. Who got x equals -33? So that's good. So We substitute the 0 in. So we would have 0 equals 2 times the square root of x plus 49 minus 8. So we would start off by adding 8 to both sides. So 8 equals 2 times the square root of x plus 49. Then we divide both sides by 2. And then we square both sides. And we subtract the 49. So if on the test you wrote it like this, you're not getting full credit, because it does say on the test to write it as an ordered pair. So in order to get full credit, you would have to write it as negative 33, 0. And then to find our y-intercept, we have y equals 2 times the square root of 0 plus 49. So we're adding, and notice that it's a perfect square. It will be a perfect square on the test also. So you won't have any decimals. The square root of 49 is 7. 14 minus 8. And I got 6. Anybody else get 6? So you would write that as 0, positive 6. And that's it, y'all. What you think? It's early to do math. All right. Let's look at number 3, or C. So there's 2 different ways that we can solve this for x. And again, it doesn't matter which way you decide to go with. But if we have 0 equals 16x squared minus 25, we could factor this down. Does anyone else recognize that this is the difference of 2 squares? So you could factor it. What multiplies to be 16x is 4x times 4x, and what multiplies to give us 25 is 5 times 5. One has to be positive and one has to be negative. And when you set both of these equal to 0, you would get your 2 answers, and both would be fractions. So this has 2 x-intercepts. And whenever you see an exponent on that variable, that pretty much lets me know I'm looking for 2 answers. So I kind of, that's not always true, but many times if x is squared, then there's more than one intercept. So for my x-intercepts, you can write it separately, but I'm just going to say plus minus 5/4 over 0. But you could also write it as 2 separate order pairs. The other way is if you don't recognize that this is a difference of squares, is to just solve it. So if I have the 0 equals 16x squared minus 25, I could add 25 to both sides. Divide by 16. And then take the square root. And when you square root, you're doing top and bottom. And again, you just have to remember though, whenever you take the square root, it's a plus and a minus, 5/4. So that's two different ways. Whichever way you prefer will get you credit. No preference. So now let's do our y-intercept. So that means x equals 0. So we have y equals 16 times 0 squared minus 25. Would you agree that anything times 0 is 0? So this term here is just going to cancel. And you're going to have y equals negative 25. So my y-intercept, I would write that as 0, negative 25. And there's only one. There's only one y-intercept, but two x-intercepts. It's a parabola. Okay. Now let's look at D. So in order to find, because when you set this equal to 0, when I'm looking for my x-intercepts and y equals 0, the only way to solve this, well, I shouldn't say the only way, but you're going to have to factor this down or do the quadratic formula. I would recommend you factor it because you can do a shortcut. So find your two numbers that multiply to -6 and add to -1. And then set both of your parentheses equal to 0. So you'll have two different x-intercepts. Anybody want to take a guess on what the two numbers would be that multiply to give you a -6 but add to a -1? Yeah, -3 and +2. Good job. So set those equal to 0. And you'll have two different x-intercepts. One is at +3 and the other one is at -2. So for my x-intercepts, I'm going to write them as ordered pairs. my first one would be 3, 0, and my second one is negative 2, 0. Now, when you're trying to find your y-intercept and it's a quadratic, the answer will always be C. So you could kind of save yourself a little bit of time. But, so you'll have y equals 0 squared minus 0 minus 6. Well, if you were to type that in your calculator, you would be left with 0 minus 0 minus 6, which is just negative 6. So your y-intercept should be written as 0, negative 6. The biggest part, if I'm trying to think back to why students miss this, is because they try to solve it. Like they'll try to add the 6 and to both sides, but you can't do that. It's a quadratic, you have to factor it or do the quadratic formula. All right, just 2 more and we're finished, y'all. So now we got to make our box. See if you can remember him. This cannot be, you could do the bottoms up method too, but to find your x-intercepts, you will have to factor. So go ahead and take a minute and try to factor that by yourself. Make a box, you can't do a shortcut. So after you see that the assignment is in Skyward, you can throw it away. Okay, you can have it though. Make sure it's in Skyward. Okay. I'm gonna put this in at the end of class. I'm recording now, so I can't open this side of it. So we have A, B, and C, 2 numbers that multiply to negative 10 and add to negative 9. What would be my numbers? What'd you say? Negative 10 and 1. And then you're taking out your greatest common factors, which is looking at these two, you're saying, okay, oops, what can I take out? Both of these are even. So because they're both even, we know we can divide them both by 2. I can also take out an x. The only thing that comes out of 1 is 1. So when you set these equal to 0, you would have 2x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. So for your x-intercepts, my answers that I'm looking for would be a negative 1/2 and a positive 5. Yes, Sasha. So I'm taking out the GCF. The only number that goes into 1 is 1. But both of these squares have an x, so that's why I took out an x. And there are a lot of other ways to factor. If you can always kind of, like I tell my students, YouTube is actually, thank you, a great resource. So if you type in factoring quadratics, you could probably find other methods if you're not like, if you feel like the box is kind of, yeah, because there's a lot of different ways to do it. Okay, and then for your y-intercept, the answer will always just be C if it's a quadratic, because you'll have y equals 2 times 0 squared minus 9 times 0 minus 5, which is just going to give you negative 5. So for your y-intercept, it would be 0, negative 5. Okay, we're going to end there. Yes, Brian? Did you have a question?
Do we still have to show work?
No, not for your y-intercept. The only thing I want you to do is just show that you put the 0 in. That's it. Okay, I'm going to pass out homework